January 14th, 2020 was Edmonton's coldest recorded morning since 1996. Blatchford Weather Station recorded a minus 37.6 degrees Celsius with a wind chill factor of minus 44. Some towns like Grande Cache estimated lows of minus 45 degrees Celsius with a wind chill factor going below minus 53. It was so cold that the Calgary Zoo cancelled its penguin walk for the third day in a row. Here in Edmonton, one of our LRT lines cracked, with a water main freezing and bursting at one of the stations. When I tell people who aren't from here about the weather, I hear one of two things.
You are absolutely insane.
Well, you probably have a lot of school days and work days canceled, right, for the bad weather?
Not quite. For as long as I can remember, I have never had school or work canceled due to bad weather. That includes hypothermic temperatures, vision-obscuring blizzards, and a foot of snow before the sun comes up. Edmontonians are just in the habit of layering up, digging themselves out, and sitting in traffic for an extra hour if need be, just to keep the city functioning. There are a number of safety tips you learn pretty quickly when trying to survive Edmonton weathers. If you're driving, you need winter tires, you need to get used to plugging your car in, you need to make sure your washer fluid is always filled, lift your windshield wipers off the car when it's snowing, don't overcorrect if you're about to skid, be careful of black ice and windrows, keep a window scraper, jumper cables, an emergency blanket, a first aid kit. If you're stuck in the snow, you can jam a pizza box in front of the wheels to create traction. You want to shuffle on the ice instead of walk, and if you're about to slip on the ice, don't catch yourself with your hands because your wrists will break. Bring extra winter clothes with you. Keep those extremities covered, toes, fingers, ears, and don't forget to layer up. Finally, seasonal affective disorder is a real thing, so it's important to keep your mental health in check. Now, speaking about health, it's also important to know the signs of hypothermia and what to do if you see someone struggling. So the first thing they say to do is to get the person off of any cold surface they might be on and to get them dry. And a huge instinct that people go for is immediately warming up the fingers and toes. But what you actually want to do is heat up the torso first, because if you heat up the fingertips and the extremities too quickly, that person might actually go into shock. I didn't know that. You also want to monitor the person's breathing and pulse. You want to see if the lips or fingers are turning blue or gray. And you can also give the person some warm water or warm drinks to help heat them back up again. Obviously, if you feel unsure, never hesitate to call an ambulance. We shift gears to talk briefly about heat, more specifically global temperature. This is a video from NASA. It shows global temperature anomalies averaged over the 5 years prior to that particular year. The red represents warming over a period of time. This video talks about Edmonton's weather, which is the atmospheric conditions that occur locally over short periods of time. Climate change refers to average weather changes over longer periods of time due to natural and human processes. Global warming is used to refer to the human processes that have exacerbated historical rates of climate change. For example, the emission of fossil fuels. And that brings us to the polar vortex. The polar vortex is exactly what it sounds like. It's a swirling mass of cold air at each of the Earth's poles. These masses of air expand during the winter, sending some of that cold air towards the equator. So when it's winter up here in the northern hemisphere, some of that cold air moves south towards the equator. That is normal. However, there is increasing evidence that climate change, namely the melting of the polar ice caps, has caused that polar vortex to destabilize more frequently. That destabilization drives more of the cold air down towards us. This is why when we talk about global warming, we're talking about all types of extreme weather, from massive wildfires to extreme cold. But let's get back to Edmonton. School shutdowns vary across Canada. Rural towns across the country, especially if they rely on students coming in from small hamlets and distant farms, may close because the transportation risks are heightened over long stretches of uninhabited road. And even then, the physical school building will usually remain open to provide shelter and supervision for kids who do make the trip. Cities are a little different though. Over the last decade, Halifax averaged about 4.4 snow days a year, while Quebec City averages about 1.75 snow days and the Hamilton area about 1.6. But cities accommodate differently to the weather. For example, recently, the entire city of Vancouver basically shut down due to the snow, which for us prairie folks is a bit envy-inducing even if we don't want to admit it. Yet in the prairies, the number of snow days or school or work cancellations is still much more likely to be 0. If road conditions are particularly bad in the city, school buses may be cancelled, but teachers must still report to their classrooms and students may even still be docked for attendance. Now, the official policy of the Edmonton Public School Board is to keep schools open regardless of the weather. The statement on the website says schools need to remain open even under the most severe weather conditions to provide a safe environment for students who choose to attend. I will say, indoor recess was one of the best parts of elementary school. If you're also from Winter City, tell us about your experiences in the comments below. And if you're not, is there anything here that surprised you? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay warm. Oh, this is cold.